Film can be quite a scary space to be a woman and to be someone queer, because traditionally it's a male-dominated industry, and yeah, it felt different.
Schmarketing loves creatives. Vooral als ze maatschappelijk betrokken werk maken. Daarom zetten wij ze op het podium. En als echte creatives maken ze die natuurlijk zelf. In deze aflevering filmmaker, scenario-schrijver en director Gianna Mazzeo.
My name's Gianna. I am from Australia and I'm a filmmaker and a writer-director. I'm a bit of an all-rounder. I studied media and communications and I majored in cinema studies. I quickly learned that I prefer to make and use my hands and be on set and hang out with people and learn things. And eventually, figured out that I like to tell stories. A lot of my work is like a little bit silly, hopefully a bit funny. If you're not laughing with me, hopefully you can at least be laughing at me. I'm not usually the person making the set. I'm usually like, do this, do this, do this, and then I tap out. The way I kind of started in my career was reaching out to brands that I liked and offering to make them some content based on whatever their needs were, just so I could practice and make something cool for my folio for a brand that matched my aesthetic.
You made a film about the history of the carabiner. That's why you're in the middle of carabiners right now.
Yes.
What does the project about the carabiners say about you?
I always look for topics and subject matter to explore based on how interesting I think it will be for people. Like, we're totally flooded by different content on the internet to watch. I remember like hearing a bunch of stories from one of my exes about like the origin of the carabiner and how it came to become a lesbian symbol. And so I thought, this is worth making something about.
A symbol of identity and belonging, a queer and lesbian flag, the carabiner.
It's like one of my first big projects here. I'm really throwing myself in the deep end by promising to find an entirely female identifying or non-binary queer crew. It was something that I'd always wanted to do, but I always copped out at the end. Sometimes you need to like employ certain people that the client wants in order to get a job over the line. For this project, I thought this is the moment, like where I have to kind of prioritize this. I just reached out to all of my queer friends, but I really got stuck on trying to find a gaffer. I messaged every producer friend I had. There was somebody I was seeing who was in town, and they were just like keen to help out, and they have a bit of a background in film, and so I just asked them like, do you think you could potentially be a gaffer, because I can't find anyone and I think you'd be great. Film can be quite a scary space to be a woman and to be someone queer, because traditionally it's a male-dominated industry, and yeah, it felt different. It felt like friends on set. It was really nice.
Is the female perspective something that you, well, obviously incorporate in your work, but is it something that you find important? Yeah, I think it's definitely important. We've heard a lot of one-sided stories traditionally. I think it's great to champion marginalized voices and to hear more stories about women and about queer people and people of color and all the people we don't usually hear from. I used to work in a video rental store when I was like 15, and I did it because, this is a bit cringe, but I did it because Quentin Tarantino did it. Yeah, I thought if I follow in his footsteps, maybe I'll also be like a famous feature film director. I remember we had a careers counselor who also, she heard that I wanted to do film, and she said, oh, that's a cute hobby, but we're actually having a shortage of maths teachers at the moment, so maybe you should do that. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. But then at the very last minute, my sister pulled me aside and she said, you know, you don't have to do that. Like, you can do whatever you want, like you'll make it work. And so at the very last minute, I changed my preferences. And then I studied film, and I never really looked back. It's always felt right. I've always been really engaged with it. It's cute. I love her. How would you describe your style if it comes down to film?
I think the thing that ties my work together is a silliness, like a tendency to not take myself too seriously. I love comedy themes, and I think elements of surrealness, playful production design, and like over-the-top aesthetics. I know with the History of the Caribbean project, personally, I was quite scared to attach it to a client. It was always an idea I had that I wanted to make. I was a little bit worried about attaching a client to it in case they tried to censor certain elements or change the story from the way that I envisaged it. In an ideal world, clients would make sure that they approach queer creatives with a sensitivity to the stories that we're trying to tell, and try not to change our vision too much. But in the same way, as a creative, like, make sure you back yourself and stand up for what you want, the story you want to tell. Yeah, the more you can do to stand up for the community and preserve our stories, the better the opportunities will be in the future, I think.
And do you have any projects lined up that are coming out that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I just was filming recently for the Sardine. They're doing a big fundraiser to try to buy the Sardine back and turn it into a foundation, which is like owned and run by the community. So that was a passion project, and everybody was working to help out. And so I definitely would like to shout that one out because everybody should donate.
And where can we find you online?
I have a website. It's www.giannamazzeo.com. Yes. I think you just have to try hard enough. I think it's easy to say there aren't any queer gaffers, or I can't find a person of colour to be on set. And maybe in 10 years or in 20 years, people who haven't had the opportunity to work in certain roles yet will pay off, and then we'll have a really skilled labour force of lots of different types of people to work with.